Hello, my name is Victor Alvarado, and my project is on the Zamia Integrifolia cycad, also known as the Kunti palm. That is not a palm. Start off with, I wanted to insert an introductory video. Hello, my name is Victor Alvarado, and I will be doing my project on the Zamia Integrifolia plant. It is also known as the Florida arrowroot or the Kunti palm, but don't worry, it is not a palm, it is a cycad. This is the Zamia Integrifolia plant I have right here with me. It is a small, low-growing plant with a pinnate leaf structure, as you can see right here. It is a gymnosperm plant, which means it produces its seeds and cones outside of its body, unprotected by a fruit or ovary. But as you can see here, this plant has yet to grow a seed or cone, which means it is not sexually mature yet. These plants are native to Caribbean regions such as Florida, Cuba, the Cayman Islands, and as well as the Bahamas. They grow mainly in ecosystems such as the coastal rocklands or pine flatwoods. And as you can see here on the leaves, it looks like there has been some herbivory damage, and I will specifically talk about what insect is capable of doing this damage to this plant later on in the slides. Thank you. Now, onto the origin of the Zamian Turcifolia plant. As a cycad overall, cycads have been around for millions of years since the Permian period, which dates back to around 280 to about 300 million years ago. And these plants are popularly mistaken for palms or ferns, but an easy way to differentiate them is when you look at a cycad leaf, the leaves have no midrib, unlike the palms, which you will see a clear vein going down the middle of the leaf. Now, the Zamia tegrapholia belongs to the Zamia genus, which consists of about 86 species up to date currently. The first scientific discovery was made back in 1789, but previous findings of Calusa and Timucua Indians consuming this plant were made in the early 18th century. These plants, like I said in the video, are native to Caribbean regions and are one of the very small number of cycads that are native to Florida, besides the Zamia floridana and the Dion edile. They are distributed throughout the Bahamas, Cayman Islands, Cuba, Georgia, and Florida. And I included a map that I got from the IUCN Red List of Threatened Species. In the upper right, in the most right map, you will see all the yellow regions are the regions where the plant is now extinct, where it is native to. As you can see, the Florida. This is in Cuba, the peninsula de Guanacabibes, and these are the Cayman Islands. Now, for some importances of the plant, I will talk about the ecological importance of the plant and how it contributes to fauna biodiversity and its interactions with insects and other microorganisms. I'll talk about the conservation of the plant, such as the efforts that have been taken and the value of the plant, as well as the habitat destruction and resource exploitation, which have led to conservation being needed for this plant. I will also talk about the horticultural importance, how they have ornamental qualities, and how they are popular landscape plants. I will talk about the cultural importance of the plants, how they are a traditional indigenous meal, and why they got their Kunti name, and because of their starchy roots. And lastly, I will talk about research that can be done with this plant, such as in the conservation biology fields, ethnobotany, and physiological/genetic research. For the ecological importance of this plant, it does provide habitat structure, such as providing shelter for very small organisms, as it is although a small and low growing plant, its leaves do tend to branch out for a couple inches to feet. They provide erosion control as well, such as because the plant foliage helps to reduce soil and wind erosion in coastal areas, which they are native to. They also help with nutrient control and cycling because of their coralloid roots have a symbiotic relationship with cyanobacteria, which in turn the cyanobacteria help fix atmospheric nitrogen into ammonium for the plant to be able to uptake it, as well as producing amino acids, which further improves nitrogen uptake and reducing leaching. Now, the two insects that they attract are in this right picture you'll see. This is the host insect of called the Humus atala, also called the Atala hairstreak butterfly. And in the introductory video that I included, the herbivory damage is done by the caterpillar, the larvae of this butterfly right here, as well as a beneficial insect that they also attract, which is the weevil insect. It's scientifically known as a Rhopalatoria forfracea. They are very beneficial because there have been studies that the cones have a push-pull method with the host plant volatiles that they emit, that they emit chemicals attracting the weevils to the cones when they are sexually mature, and then they emit different kinds of chemicals to repel them to other cones for cross-pollination. And I attach here pictures of the roots of juvenile Zamia plants. Now, for conservation, the Zamia teguifolia plant is currently listed as near threatened in the IUCN Red List of Threatened Species, with a decreasing population trend and only about an estimated 30,000 to 3,500 number of mature individuals out in the wild, which is an estimated 20% population decline in the past century, which is about 3 generations of plants, as each generation of the Zamia integrifolia plant could live up to 30 years in ideal conditions. Habitat destruction due to increasing human population size plus demand for agriculture and housing land has led to these populations decreasing. But they faced their biggest population dropout in the early 20th century by the Seminole Native American tribes because they overharvested this plant for food creation and consumption, which I will get into in a later slide. Conservation and research centers are currently collecting these endangered cycad species, including the Zamian tergifolia plants and other cycads from different genuses. Some examples of these centers that collect and do research as well as protect these species are Montgomery Botanical Center, the Kampong, also located in Coral Gables, and Fairchild Tropical Botanical Garden. Now, for the horticultural importance of these plants, the ornamental qualities that they have is that they have a very palm-like appearance, and their glossy leaves help add a tropical touch to any landscape that they are added to. They are perennial plants, which means that they will retain their green foliage throughout the seasons, so you would not have to worry about their leaves falling out in the colder months of the year. They are drought tolerant and they require very low maintenance once they start to grow. They are adaptable to a variety of landscape settings and garden designs, as they can be planted in different areas. As you can see on the 4 pictures on the right, they can either be planted in containers or pots or straight directly into the ground. They also have long generational lifespans, and they are very winter hardy in native regions. For the cultural importance of the Zamia tergifolia plant, in the 20th century, the Zamia and tergifolia plants were harvested for their starchy tubers, which, as you can see here in this bottom right picture, this is the tuber of the plant, which is a nutrient storage organ which grows underground, underneath the roots. What these native tribes would do is that they would harvest the plant, they would take out the tubers, they would grate them and process them, then they would leach them to remove the toxic compounds from the extracted starch. Because one fun fact about cycads in general is that they do contain a toxin or different types of toxins called psychocin, which is a carcinogenic leukocyte toxin, which is very deadly if consumed by humans or animals or anybody. So this process of leaching had to be very precise to be able to make this type of tuber safe for consumption. Then they would dry the extracted starch to create a flour-like substance, ultimately cooking it into a bread-like meal. They would use these starchy roots to create foods such as arrowroot bread or arrowroot pudding. Now, the Zamia tergifolia plant is known as the kunti palm because of the Seminole word kunti, which was what they referred to as the processed starch, which they removed from the tubers. It is not eaten anymore today due to the very low necessity to eat these plants because there is a much higher availability of every other type of food, and because most of these Zamias or cycads in general now are on the endangered list. For research importance, they help in conservation biology fields because conservation strategies from these plants can be created, as well as developing sustainable practices to reintroduce populations or grow them back into the wild or in a controlled condition. This can be done either through in situ or vitro in the lab. They help for research in the ethnobotany field because by studying the history of the Xemian tergifolia plant and its uses by indigenous communities, we can help unlock more knowledge about their traditional customs and their practices. They also help in the physiological and genetic research field because due to the vast history of cycad species in general, dating back to basically when dinosaurs were still alive, as these plants, cycads in general, are also known as living fossils. Research on their genetic material and physiological processes can help create an accurate phylogenetic tree of the ancestral lines of each cycad genus. Now, the picture included on the right is of all the current Zamia species. As you can see, Zamias are also known as a New World cycad, which means that they only became discovered when the Americas were discovered, as you can hear in the Miocene period, which was about 20 to 5 million years ago, which is very recent. As you can see here, they include the Zamias that are Caribbean, the ones that are Mesoamerican, the ones that are Isthmus, which means that they are branching between two different Americas, and the South American species. And these are my references. My references. Thank you.